you talk about black women, hey, we haven't had it this bad in a long, long time.
So I'm thinking about her and about the generations of women, black women, history have paved the way for this moment tonight.
Hello, and welcome. Hi. Oh my goodness. My name is Shannon Stott. This is Zabora. Thank you, Zabora, for being here. I am your host for the Fierce Vulnerability Summit, and I am so glad and so proud to be here with all of you. I am wondering where people are joining us from, just to see. Put it in the comments. Let me know. I am in Austin, Texas, and we are coming from you from all over the globe, it feels like, this evening, to make sure that you have an amazing experience talking about coaching. This is what we are here to do. We are celebrating an amazing year accumulation of book tours. This is the Fierce Vulnerability Summit, a conversation about and a celebration of colored girls' truths, trials, and triumphs. Tonight, we are exploring the power of having a fiercely vulnerable Black life coach. Sophia Casey has written a book about the strength of Black women and how they move through and relate to the world. In this book, these women invest in their families and friends for support, but they also have the foresight to invest in themselves. Tonight, we gather to discuss the importance of investing in yourself through coaching, the stigma of it, and the great rewards. Sophia Casey, who has served for more than 30 years as an agent of change for followers around the world, has been featured in Success Magazine and on Fox News and Sirius XM Radio, and is a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation. She has proven time and time again that the way to lift yourself up is to lift up others. She has done just that by gathering amazing speakers together to discuss powerful topics ranging from allyship to embracing sexuality to creating generational wealth in the Black community. These discussions have inspired viewers to change their lives, trust in the power of fierce vulnerability, and champion Sophia Casey's book to Amazon's #1 new release in the dramas and plays by women category when it came out. We gather one last time tonight on her closing book tour to be inspired by these discussions so we may continue to champion her so Sophia can do what she does best, and that is support us and our community. Now, I am thinking that you all do not want to hear from me. You want to hear from Sophia Casey herself. So, without further ado, Sophia Casey. Yes.
Hello. Thank you, Shannon. Zabora. Hello, Zabora. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here yet again for a rich discussion around fierce vulnerability. So it turns out that tonight I am relinquishing a little bit of control. And y'all who know me, that's challenging, okay? I'm relinquishing a little bit of control. And I'm going to have my coaching besties who are just so dear to me actually kick off this conversation, and then I'll come back. Why am I relinquishing control and I'm going to leave and then come back? Guess what? Because I'm doing what I love, which is coach training. That's what I'm doing tonight. And so I created not an either or, either I do the coach training or I have my wonderful panel discussion. I created what we talk about in the coaching world, a both and. And so I actually can have both. It takes fierce vulnerability to be willing to look at possibilities. What are the possibilities that your life can work together? What is the possibility that your life, all parts of your life can work together? And those are the kind of conversations we've been having all year. So I want to say happy anniversary to Fierce Vulnerability, a Color Girls Truths, Trials, and Triumphs. And I want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for just helping this book just go wild like wildfire and have it debut as the #1 new release on Amazon. That's something else we talk about in the coaching world, creating the impossible. If you had told me just a couple years ago that I would have written a fiction book, I wouldn't have believed it. I didn't consider myself a writer, and I certainly did consider myself a fiction writer. But God put this story so heavily on my heart, I had to tell it. And so I thank you for allowing me to have my voice and share the story about Ava, Vanessa, Simone, and Jean-Marie. And tonight is really extra special. I wouldn't have anyone else, no other professionals, help me celebrate this 1-year anniversary other than coaches. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. And I'm looking forward to this conversation around how Black life coaches actually coach with fierce vulnerability, how we bring fierce vulnerability to our community. I'll see you soon.
All right, Sophia, this is an amazing gathering of people. It's not just Sophia, as she said, she makes sure that she surrounds herself with amazing people to bring you a conversation that is worthwhile and inspiring. We have some amazing people tonight, and one of those people is Akasha Saunders, who is an associate with Cultivating Leadership, a New Zealand-based firm that specializes in complexity and leadership development. He designs and facilitates leadership programs that supports adult development and intercultural competence. Akasha is credentialed through the International Coach Federation as a professional certified coach. He lives in Grenada with his partner and their son. Welcome, Akasha. We also have Jessica Lightbourne, who is a success coach and an executive coach. She has also been a lawyer since 2008, having qualified in Canada and Bermuda with experience in the private and public sectors. She's committed to human rights advocacy, women's issues, community building, creative arts, and generally leaving the world a better place than she found it. Welcome, 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 Jessica. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. We also have Reginald Jackson, who is a United States Marine Corps vet and served on active duty for more than 20 years. His military experience is the foundation of his leadership development expertise and marks the genesis of his commitment to coaching. Reginald is currently pursuing a PhD in organizational and industrial psychology, specializing in leadership development and coaching. His philosophy of constantly stepping outside his comfort zone and pushing his mind and body to the limit is the same philosophy that exists in his coaching, inspiring his clients to do the same. Reginald, Reggie, thank you for being here. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
No. Thank you. We also have Lorraine Phillips, who is the founder of Clarendon Wallace, an executive coaching and leadership consulting firm and the British School of Etiquette, Bermuda, which focuses on developing the social and soft skills of its clients. Lorraine empowers leaders and guides them through the next steps needed to make a meaningful impact in their social and professional lives. An associate certified coach, ACC, with the International Coach Federation, ICF. Lorraine is also an executive and professional coach with the Coaching Academy London. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Of course, Lorraine. And we have Melna Jones, who has spent over 25 years in leadership roles both in the military and within multiple federal government agencies. Through her experiences, she developed a desire to help those who find themselves in places they never expected to be, with responsibilities they haven't developed the skills for. Melna is committed to helping you find focus, clarity, empowerment, motivation, and the inspiration needed to reach the vision you've designed for your future. Welcome, Melna.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. And we also have Kira Fenderson, who is the owner and head coach of a sought-after coaching firm, a keynote speaker, corporate trainer, and has supported clients across industries and companies like Intel and the U.S. Office of Special Counsel and the National Association for Women Business Owners. Kira founded the Ambition Studio and started her career working on Fortune 500 national marketing campaigns. Kira, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh, we are too. Everybody here is super excited. All comments are blowing up and we're excited to get started. This is the thing I'm going to ask each of you. You can bounce around. This question that's starting us off this evening is for you, the viewers. So make sure to write what your answer is in the comments, and it's obviously for all of these wonderful panelists. And that is, what was the last thing you invested in yourself? How did you last invest in yourself, and how did it pay off? How did you last invest in yourself, and how did it pay off? So while you're thinking about that, write it in the chat. Write how you last invested in yourself and how it paid off, and we'll talk about that. But right when I said those words, Akasha leaned forward like he knew exactly what his answer was going to be. So we're going to start off with you, Akasha, and then you can bounce it to anyone else that you're seeing. You can feel the energy. So Akasha, yes, tell us a little bit about the last time you invested in yourself and how it paid off.
Hey, thanks, Shannon. I like how keen and attentive you are. Mine is actually quite simple, because just before this call, I had dinner on the rooftop with my son and my partner, and there were 2 dogs. Listen, I've been going like nonstop for months, like working and writing, and sometimes the middle of the night. And so taking those 2 hours off to just laugh with my son, laugh upon him, and laugh with my partner, my life partner, and laugh upon her, that amazing Black woman, at the best 2 hours I've spent in a very long time. And so that's it. In fact, it was a big investment. So there we go. Melna, calling on you next.
Well, thank you, Akasha. I would have to say something really very similar. Just yesterday, my investment in myself and my gift to me was to get up, something I didn't want to do at 5 in the morning, and put those walking shoes on, wait for the sun to come out, and get out there, smell the roses, watch the sun come up, and just have that space, that time that was just for me. And it was refreshing. It was invigorating. It changed my whole mindset for the day. So I'm going to pass it over to Lorraine.
Hi. I wish I had something as light as that, but I've been doing a series of classes. I call them classes, but every time I allow myself and expose myself to grow, I use it immediately. And that's been fascinating to watch. In the moment, I thought it was a great idea. And then the very next day, something comes up in a coaching session and I hear myself applying it. And so I'm reminded all the time that we should be continually learning and growing and exposing ourselves to new things and to new ways of being, because we can bring more to our clients when we do so. And it's very humbling to see that happen time and time again. I will go to Jessica.
Thanks, Lorene. I think I'm going to have a similar answer, except that I just had this afternoon, as I do weekly, an amazing session with my coach, who is a somatic coach. She works with the shape of who you are. So in terms of your body, but also the shape of your language. What are the words that you are speaking? What are the shapes of your emotion? How can you open yourself more? How can you create more of what you want through that mind-body connection? It is like magic. It isn't magic, but it feels like it. And I always come away with so much empowerment, so much power, so much energy, and just a feeling of well-being. So I've been doing it with this particular coach. I always have a coach. Never trust a coach who doesn't have a coach, but this particular coach I've been working with for 3 months, and it has been life-changing. So that's how I've been investing in myself. I'm going to pass on to Reggie.
I don't think there's anyone else left. Investing. So I know we're going to have more conversation about that. But for me, I am currently investing in myself. I enrolled in what's called a coach supervision program. So that's the next level for coaches who want to empower other coaches. So I've spent the last 5 or 6 years as a mentor coach, and that's training folks who want to become coaches. So very much like Sophia. But now the tables are turned where I am getting the training. I am studying, and I'm becoming more familiar with how to serve other coaches in their growth through awareness and reflection. So it's a 36-week course. I don't do anything unless it's intense. So yeah, that's the way I'm investing in myself. And how it's actually created more space for me is we're now in week 6, and I've grown so much from that and have experienced so much that I'm actually pouring into my clients in the same way that I've been poured into. So that's what it's been like for me. So it's been an incredible experience.
Yeah. And Kira, can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. So Reggie, I love when you said you don't do anything unless it's intense. I don't do anything unless it's business related. So my last thing I invested in though wasn't business related for once. So we had a pandemic baby, and I didn't know motherhood outside of, these 4 walls, this house. And I was approached by another PCC coach, professional certified coach, who was doing a program around like well-being and boundaries. And I thought I had it all together until she really had a session with me, and I was like, "Oh, I need this." So I've been in a 12-week course around integrating parenting, entrepreneurship, what my relationship and marriage looks like. And it has been amazing. Like the self-care is beyond bubble baths. It is so luxurious and it's so enriching. And I, of course, as a coach know this, but until you're in it, you don't realize it. Nurturing myself and my well-being relates back to the business. So I really, really appreciate that I was called forth to do an investment that was for myself and not just for investing in the business.
Okay. You started it. Okay. So you just said it. You said investing in my well-being relates back to the business. And so I would love to open this discussion up about dispelling this myth. We're going to dispel a couple of myths tonight, but dispelling this myth that self-care, 1, is only bubble baths, right? And 2 is for white people. Okay. So can you talk about how that's not true, what self-care really looks like from pampering oneself to investing in oneself like coaching, and how it affects us as a culture, Black people as a culture, when we do those things?
Yeah, I'll add to that because I had some tremendous breakthroughs. So self-care is more than just bubble baths. I realized that I was ignoring some very practical, tactical type of well-being things like sleep, doctor's appointments, exercise or just going on walks, those things that you think are quote unquote basic. I know that sometimes in our culture, we're not gung-ho to go to the doctors and get that thing checked out. And that is self-care. Another thing that I tackled was worthiness. So again, COVID had us in our house, and we're still in our house to a certain extent. And I was going crazy. And my coach challenged me to say, I know that you love this particular hotel. They have the clawfoot tub. So this is where bubble baths come into play. And she said, what if you book that once a month for the rest of the year? And first thing that came to my mind was, who am I to do that? Second thing that came to my mind is, where would the money come from? And third thing came to my mind is like, that's not fair to my partner. And what about my daughter? And just all these things around sacrifice and struggle. And being raised in a single family household, I saw my mother sacrifice and struggle, whether she wanted to or not. But I thought that's what I needed to do as well. It was too luxurious. How dare I go into a boutique hotel for an overnight stay once a month? How dare I book out for the rest of the year? Like, who does that, right? And I was incredibly confronted by it, but because of the support of my coach and the other women, it was a group coaching experience. It is a group coaching experience. The other women there holding space, really challenging me. I pushed through. I booked those bad boys out to the end of the year. And I'm going to do it again for 2022 because it was more than just the hotel. It's more than just the bubble bath. It's the commitment to self. And then understanding that when I come back, I am rejuvenated, I am clear, I'm ready to go. And during those times where I feel like I'm ready to go crazy, I know, okay, in a week, I'm getting ready to go to bubble bath. So it just becomes a safe haven for me. And I think that's really important for us to learn to do, is nurturing ourselves for what we need and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah, I'll jump in right behind you, Kiera. So one of the things that I do for self-care is exercise. And when you release those endorphins and I call it wash, rinse, repeat. So you, like Melvin, went for a walk. That feels good. So you like how it feels, so you do it again. And well-being, self-care, they're not luxurious. They're necessities. Something I do on a regular basis now is I get massages. Anything in your life that has you go, that's well-being. And so to experience that, or I should say to rob yourself of that experience, means you don't allow the best of yourself to come out for other people to enjoy you, so you can enjoy life. We're only here for a flicker. Life is way too short for us to not spend time with the people we love, doing the things we love. And that's what equals self-care. Last thing I'll say is most of my clients are women. So I see this from their perspective as they, and I'm ladies, as they make excuses about why they can't do certain things. But it's because of how they've grown up, what they've seen, what their experiences have been. And then they internalize that. So now for me, as a Black man, and I'm sure Akasha can relate to this, we think about how much is it going to cost? And is it going to take something away from our family? And the reality is, if we don't do it for ourselves, we may not even be here for our family. So I'll leave it there.
I'm going to jump in. I resonate with everything that's been shared. From my experience, I was sharing with Jessica earlier that, for example, my relationship with self-care was zero. I was very athletic in high school, and so I thought I was athletic, so therefore I had good well-being, but I didn't. It wasn't modeled. I didn't see that. I saw a very a life where it was work, achieving, striving, struggling, and pulling yourself up by the bootstrap and just keep going until you're worn out. And then I literally saw people die just like that. And as an executive in insurance industry, I experienced burnout in the last couple of years of my career, and it was a slow burn. It didn't happen overnight. And I learned a lot about the boundaries that I did not set up for myself, and more importantly, the boundaries that I didn't set up around even people that I love, my family members, and being really selfishly and being aggressive about that. So some of the things that I started to do were very low bar. I didn't make it a big hoo-hoo. It was just simply putting on my sneakers and going for a walk. So what if I didn't have the best outfit or the most attractive Nike outfit? And I just started to slowly change my mindset around what exercise is and what well-being was. And then I just kind of moved it, moved up and inched my way. I had to learn from the beginning. And then I started through COVID, I started realizing that not only was I more resilient when I exercised, and not only did I feel better and I was better as a mom and as a wife, but not only did I work better, but I had to also find ways to make human connections while I was doing this. So one of the things I started to do was I made up a list of some friends that I haven't seen for a very long time. And I promised myself that once a week, we would just go for a walk. It's not going to be a competition. It's not going to be how many miles. We're just going to walk and talk. And that has given me an opportunity to coach a lot of my friends and to invest in them. People are going through so much right now. And so every moment that I have to spend with some good friends and to exercise and to coach, so I'm doing 3 things at once, I'm able to do that. So I think what I want to say is that the bar doesn't have to be that high. It doesn't have to be something that you have to strive for. It has to be a commitment that if you want to have a life that is impactful, then you need to be your very best self.
And I'm going to piggyback on what you said, Lorraine, because you said something that piqued my interest, or I shouldn't say my interest, but my memories and brain. Bootstraps. And I've always been that person who exercised. I've exercised my entire life. But I'm also a very social person, and I did not realize or even recognize the effect that the pandemic was having, not only on those around me, I was seeing that, but on myself. And self-care was important, but it was beginning to go by the wayside as a result of the lack of social connection, I would say. It took I don't know how we were a year into this pandemic by the time I recognized that this isn't right. And what I'm thinking, or what I wasn't thinking at the time, but what I'm saying now is that sometimes self-care looks like something you can't do by yourself. Your bootstraps are way down there somewhere. You don't even see them. You can't feel them. And you can't pick yourself up or pull yourself up. And that means getting some help. And it's okay to seek out that help sometimes, because we can't, that mental stability or that mental care, we can't get there on our own a lot of the time. So sometimes you have to seek that out. And so for me, it meant, and it wasn't until I heard someone else say it. I was on a call with a bunch of other coaches, and one of the ladies, or all of these women, were saying how great they had pivoted during this pandemic. They had found all these great opportunities. And I thought, well, what's wrong with me? I'm not doing any of those things, and I don't feel that way. As a matter of fact, I had to drag myself out of the bed every day this week. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And then someone else spoke up and said, I'm so thankful that this is happening for the rest of you. But for me, it's been a struggle, and this has been my struggle. And she described it, and I thought, that's me. And she went on to say how depressed she was. And I thought, am I depressed? I've never been depressed a day in my life. How can I be depressed? I don't get depressed. Black people don't get depressed. But I was. I just didn't recognize it as such. So sometimes self-care looks like something else. It looks like someone else taking you by the hand and helping you through it, because you can't get there on your own. And that's okay.
Melna, yes, Melna, it's you and Kiara, like, you're just doing the thing where you're reading my mind. So we're all talking about the self, the body, right? And how to make sure that our bodies are fit and cared for so that our minds can be fit and cared for. But you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes you need other people. So I'd love to transition all of you to talk about coaching, and really specifically the difference between coaching and therapy. right? Coaching is not therapy. Can you talk about the strength of coaching, how it can be helpful, and how it is not therapy? You, the people.
I'll jump in. So a part of the disclaimer, excuse me, is while coaching isn't therapy, it can be therapeutic, meaning it can be wonderfully, it can have a great way to assist you in what you are wanting to do. Now, therapy oftentimes looks for or identifies trauma in the past, something that needs to be healed, and something that needs to be resolved. And in some cases, like Melna mentioned, if you are depressed or perhaps even clinically depressed, a therapist, if licensed to do so, can prescribe medication. With coaching, that's more forward thinking. Even though we want our clients to be present to or understand what their emotions are, it's also to have them consider what's available for them in the future. Sophia started off talking about possibilities. So in coaching, we talk about what are the possibilities. We ask our clients, what is possible for you? And when they can't see that, again, to Melna's point, that's how we help our clients move to that future state. So I could talk about this all night, but I know we're all here together. So I'm going to put myself back on mute.
I'll just add to some of what you said, Coach Reggie. Not so much about the distinction, because I think you did a really good job with that. I want to add that I've found that coaching and therapy can be quite complementary. So while they are different, I mean, I've had situations where I've encouraged clients to actually go see a therapist before continuing coaching or while continuing coaching, depending on what's coming up for them, which have opened my eyes actually a little bit to how we as coaches can coach with a sort of trauma-informed lens, although we're not addressing trauma. But how do we recognize it so that we can actually be more in service of our clients? So definitely not the same thing, and they can complement each other really, really well.
Can you all start to talk about what coaching is? I'm going to just throw it to you, Lorraine. When you define coaching, when you're telling people, when they're coming to you and saying, coaching, what even is that? Can we hear from each of you about what you tell them? What is coaching?
That's a really great place to start, because most people that come to me don't know what coaching is. They have an idea of what they think it is. And I start with what it's not, because it's really hard to just go straight into and say coaching is XYZ. So I start with what it's not. So it's not therapy. It's not mentoring. And I make that distinction. And then I get to what coaching is. And then by just having clarity about what it isn't, and when I talk about what it is, then the light bulb goes off. But the distinctions I think Coach Reggie highlighted is just really having them understand that that we focus on the future, on forward movement, on moving forward, that we're not going to be living in the past trying to start, figure out what this past thing meant, etc. That's for another set of skill set. And so kind of that's kind of how I do it. I really start off with what it isn't, and I go through all the different disciplines, and then I talk about what it, and therefore what it is. And I may do a mini coaching session where they pick something really simple, and I will do a few minutes of coaching so that they can actually see what it looks like and what it feels like. Because if you've never been coached, you don't have a context of what exactly you're asking for. So I find that is very, very helpful for individuals who've never been coached, is to have a coaching conversation with them, and so that they can experience the gift of coaching and what that feels like, and how powerful and empowering that can be.
Hi, if I may jump in on that and piggyback off of what Lorena said. When I explain what coaching is, the first thing that I say is it makes the impossible possible. So normally when people come to coaches, it's because they either feel stuck or they want to get somewhere faster, or they've sort of reached that wall. And what coaches do is create team. So we already know that team, creates more better thinking, more creativity, and just more efficiency in getting things done. It's a partnership. And so what I do, how I frame it when I'm working with leaders in organizations is actually creating strategic thinking time. A lot of times, if you're with a really powerful coach, they're not doing a lot of talking. They're shutting up and listening, and then they're inserting these really powerful questions, and then they shut up and listen again, because we know that our clients are the experts of their lives. We know that they know what they think truly. They know what they feel truly. They know what their real desires are that they may not have shared with anyone before. And we are there to hold space for them so that they can reveal the truth to themselves, and then be brave enough to step, maybe a baby step out of their comfort zone or take a great leap, but making the choice on their own after making awarenesses. Coaching is so powerful. And I think that is also, the bottom line is coaching is access to power. Coaching is access to happiness. Coaching is access to success in however you define it. And you can tell I'm passionate about this, right?
I'm going to add right there with Jessica. It is powerful. And I think starting there with clients, I usually tell them during that first meeting or coaching conversation that it really is just a powerful conversation that you and I are going to have. I'm going to do a whole lot of listening, and I'm going to sprinkle in some powerful, thought-provoking questions. And if that feels uncomfortable, let me know. And that's usually how I started out, because my very first coaching endeavor, I had no idea what coaching was supposed to be like. I had mentors, and I was thinking it was something similar along the same lines. And so when I sat down with this woman, she invited me to coffee, and she was coaching me around what it meant or what it would take to become a coach. I hadn't become one yet. And I was so frustrated because all she did was ask questions. She never gave me the answer. And that was what I was looking for. I wanted her to tell me what to do, tell me how to do it, tell me how she did it so I could go mimic it and become a coach. But she stayed true to coaching, and she just asked me one question. So what do you think? And I thought, I don't like you, and I don't like these questions. So I remember that it didn't feel good. And so when I meet with clients now, I try my very best to ensure that they have a grasp on what coaching is not, like Lorraine said, and how powerful it can be. And I frame it with, we're just going to have a conversation. I'm going to listen a lot, actively, and then I'm going to ask you some questions, okay?
I'm going to jump in here because I want to play devil's advocate. So a lot of time when you say, I'm going to piggyback off Jessica, when you say to the client, you are the expert and you have all the answer. Don't you get this look? So why are you here? Why are you here? If I have all the answers, why am I coming to you? I'm just curious how you guys handle that.
Ooh.
Reggie, I'm gonna go after you.
All right, I love that question, because being a psych major, one of the things that I've learned and I've watched and noticed of the human condition is, even though we are our own subject matter expert, right? Like we know better than anyone else, we also know how to kid ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what we as coaches do, and I tell my clients, I have a BS flag and I'm not afraid to throw it. And if I hear you say something that I don't believe is true, first we're going to test the assumption. But I'm going to challenge you to be honest with yourself in a way you probably haven't been. And I'm the person that can ask the question in such a way that it's not frightening, it's not off-putting, because creating that relationship with my client is what's most important. So they can then begin to have that conversation with me that they normally don't have with anyone else. And so like Jessica, I do believe we have all the answers we need and or the ability to source that answer. And so the best way I answer people when they say, well, if I have all the answers, then what do I need you for? And say, hey, you need me to help you bring to life the truest answer possible, and not just an answer, but the answer that really resonates with you. Kiera.
Yeah, so I'm a business coach, so they're always looking for the answers from me. And one thing I'll say, we all touched upon a lot of the powerful questions, but one of the things that works so well with my clients is the reflections. Being able to say back to them, you said, I cannot get clients if I go on vacation. And I'll hold that space. So holding space for everyone who's not in the coaching world, holding space is giving you an opportunity of judgment-free expression of what your truth is, with us really not having a stake in the game, right? We want to see you win, but we're okay if you don't, because our winning is not connected to your winning. And so you have clean opportunity or space. And so when I say, you know, they're saying whatever they say, and I look down and I say, okay, so you can't generate clients if you go on vacation. And they just hear that back and process it back. And I'm looking at them and they looking at me. And I'm like, all right, so where do we go from here? And so that hearing yourself back is one of the most powerful things. And so as I always say to them, you know, I'm the mirror. I can show you that your hair is out of place, but I can't fix your hair. You can walk around looking crazy with your hair looking crazy if you want to. There's no problem. But if you choose to lean into fixing things and filling in the gaps, or changing the habits that you don't know that you're doing, then I'm here to hold that space for you and reflect it back to you and give you an opportunity to shift. I mean, we're not fixing, there aren't any problems, but to shift into who you want to be. And so when they're coming to me for the answers, I actually had a client that said, am I doing that thing where I'm just going for the money instead of the ideal client that's going to make me happy? And I said, that's a great question. Done, right? So it's the reflections that I think are really powerful as well, with the powerful questions.
Yeah. What do you think?
Kiara, I was thinking the same thing. We are the mirror, and we all have blind spots, right? And it's so interesting. We are so unconscious so much of the time. We don't even hear the words that are coming out of our mouths. We really don't. We don't see ourselves at all, or a lot of ourselves we don't see. So I just absolutely mirror and echo what you just said. It's holding up the mirror and reflecting safely, without judgment, and just holding space. I love that.
And just to add to that just a little bit, in our community as Black people, how many times do we say we're broke? Do you know what I mean? The word choices, y'all, the word choices. So one of the first things that gets on my clients' nerves is when I say, I'm just going to be the word police for like a couple of sessions, and I'll have a Post-it note and I'll write out all the words of doubt and negativity. And I'm like, you are manifesting all of this over your life. So let's start with a word diet, get you off of these words so that then you can start even just acting as if you're in the power of possibility.
All of you are already leaning towards this idea, this mental shift, right? And I am wondering about the idea of the exceptional Black man or woman, the idea that, oh, I can't afford, or I don't need coaching. That's not for me. Only people who are executives, only people who are making millions of dollars, only that niche group of people deserve coaching. Can you talk to how detrimental that mentality is? I see Melna nodding.
I want to hear from Ashaka too, because he got that look in his face. It's like,
Well, before anybody else says anything, what I want to say is that my dream is coaching for everyone, everywhere, and I believe that actually will transform this world. It will transform our community, but it'll also transform this world. The reality is, coaching already is accessible to everyone. There is a way to get a coach, whether you have no money or whether you have a gazillion dollars. And I actually do think it actually also relates to that idea of investing in oneself and valuing oneself and understanding that there is a return on investment. So I do think it actually relates to our relationship with money and worthiness and that struggle, right? The struggle bus, that idea that the only way that we can get somewhere is if we do it on our own, that we don't share our business with anyone, and that we pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. The reality is that we're never going to be able to get all the way to whatever goal we want, to any kind of transformation, if we do it on our own. That's not leadership, that's self-ship. You cannot create a movement on your own. So I hope that's in alignment with the question, but investment in self actually is a sign of self-love.
You know, I don't see a whole lot of, I was thinking as you were asking the question, Shannon, and I don't think that the people that I talk to, the clients that I speak with, are thinking I don't deserve coaching so much as what I'm hearing is I won't get coaching because I'm not at this level up here. So if you're down in the ranks, or you're middle management, or you're line management, or you're not management at all, don't even think about coaching, because it's not going to happen for you unless you come out of your own pocket. Not to say that it's not still a good investment. And as Jessica said, there are other means and ways for getting coaching at no cost if you really wanted it. The folks that I do work with who are at whatever level and their organization has said, we're going to pay or we're going to provide this coaching for you, I'm seeing a lot of them, especially Black women, who are saying, I don't deserve it. I don't, I need it as badly as anyone else over here, but I'm not deserving of it. I don't see it as something that I should go after. And I did have a client who we went through 6 months of coaching that was paid for by her organization. And at the end, she couldn't believe the transformation she herself was making. It wasn't me doing it, it was her making the choice to, shift mind. But before that, she had not made the connection between what this coaching was going to mean. As a matter of fact, on our first session, she said, I asked all of them, what brought you to coaching? Why are you here? Oh, I don't really know. I just wanted to see what this was all about. So a complete shift by the time we got through the 6 months from what had occurred at that very first session to the one that we had at the end. And by then she knew her worth. I am worth, coaching, developing, growing. It's a shift.
Melda, so many things that you've said resonates with me. And one of them, just last week, I was talking with this woman of color, a leader in her own right in Texas, and she was just talking about how she, our colleagues or white colleagues, they get coaching. She doesn't even know what that is, what it looks like. And I'm like, well, do you actually want it? She's like, I'm not exaggerating. She's like, can I have it? Can I experience that? No kidding. I'm like, of course you can. And so, to Kura's point earlier about this, and to what you just said, Mel, about the mindset shift and these ideas that coaching support isn't accessible to us. These are age-old ideas that I think that I've in some ways left behind by the masses, to say, listen, we're only privy to this and that, and not this nor that. So it's actually a bit painful to see how some of these ideas and how our psychic spaces have been colonized by these ideas that we're undeserving of support. And when I look at us on this call, like us Black coaches, it warms my heart so much. For one, I just think people need to see more and more of this. I mean, how many of us right now as coaches actually before we either got trained or got our first coach, we're like, you know what? I know I can do this. I have a lot of money in the bank. I can pay for my coaching. I can hire my first coach right away. Like, I mean, just raise your hand if that was your reality. Like, definitely not mine. I actually literally had zero money in the bank. No, I'm not exaggerating. And I mean, look at us, ACCs, PCCs, on Sophia's show celebrating our 1-year anniversary, talking about doing a PhD, talking about coaching, supporting people all over the place. Like, look at this. We're all deserving of this, and seeing where we are and being capable and willing to support ourselves and each other is nothing short of normalcy and also miraculous, right? There's nothing special about it, and at the same time it's also amazing. Okay. So I there's nothing else to say about this.
So Akash, I gotta jump right on the back of that. So my first coach, before I began my coach training program years ago, was someone that looked like me. And that was incredible. And this is the first coaching session. Inside the first 10 minutes, I wept uncontrollably because I could not believe that I could share something with someone who looked like me and who told me he understood where I was coming from and how I came to think some of the things I thought. That's something that we offer us that no one else can. The shared experience of, and I just worked with a client earlier today, feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found. And when we can share that experience with our client, that creates a bond that, Kiera, you said it perfectly, the no judgment zone. Hey, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to love you. I'm here to support you. And we're all grown, and I know Sophia won't mind. We're not gonna buy off on your shit. We're not. Because that means we're allowing you to stay where you are. As a coach, I refuse to do that because that's not why you came to me. You came to me because you wanted something more. You came to me because you wanted something better. And I'm going to ask you, what is that? And if you're not sure, no worries. Jessica said it. Our partnership will get you to the point where you see that. And I will hold up that mirror to show you are more than capable of anything in your life. Everybody on this panel has accomplished something where they've looked back and said, I don't even know how I did that. I don't know how I got here. I don't know how I made it. It's not necessarily for you to know how, but to know you can. And once you've done it, it's in you. So again, wash, rinse, repeat. And that's what we give for our clients. The ability to leave the nest, right? The safe space we've created for them so they can go off and they can continue to have those great moments and to be their better self. And every day is another possibility.
I'm going to jump in because I'm kind of going back to why I do what I do. I think it's always important to just express why we're all on, why we're doing this, and we all have an individual journey. But mine was really locked into a desire to be able to support Black and brown people who find themselves in spaces where they were often the only one. And I lived that my entire career. It was very lonely, alone and lonely, isolating. You have a lot of conversation with yourself. I did. A lot of talking stuff in my head, not feeling safe to express it to anyone else. And sometimes just a wing and a prayer, just making some decisions. And I never want anyone else, certainly Black or brown, successful individuals, to feel what I felt. No support, no encouragement, no strategic partnership. I'm not talking about mentorship. I'm talking about the distance that coaching can take you that mentoring cannot. And I want that to be not just available and accessible to Black and brown individuals, but more importantly, I want to change the narrative that Akasha talked about, because I think there's this mindset that it's for the others, it's for those people. And we need to just kind of pop the lid off that and call them on it. I think a lot of time they're not ready to do the work. They're not ready to go there. They're not ready to be vulnerable. They're not ready to stretch and to grow. I recently had a client. She was meeting with 2 or 3 other coaches, and she ended up selecting me. And in our first session, I asked her, you know, what were some of the reasons why you chose me over the other coaches? And she said, well, you were the one that made me pushed me the farthest. I felt very, very uncomfortable. And that's where I needed to be if I was going to go to the next level. And those are the individuals that I'm looking to work with. And, you know, like what Coach Reggie says, I think we have to challenge and push back on Black and brown people around sometimes their excuses for not wanting to be coached or not investing in themselves. We need to require more from them. We need to go there sometimes and have those tough conversations. And that credibility that we have and that connectivity that we have, we should leverage that to require more, so that when they show up in those spaces, that they are indeed their very best self. And they need to grow and evolve and to, it's not comfortable. Coaching is not a comfortable place to sit, you know, and it's not comfortable. It's not fun. You have to be ready to do the work, but the rewards are just absolutely amazing. And so the more we have these conversations and the more they can get a peek into what is required, I think we have a chance to really move the real success factor in an authentic and in a sustainable way.
Shannon, can I just add something real quickly to what Lorraine just mentioned?
Well, if you can hold it, because we're about to go to break. If you can just just write it down and don't forget it, because people really want to hear it, Akasha. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to go to break just for a minute, and then when we get back, we're going to just jump on what I know Akasha and I know Kiara are both wanting to say some things on this particular, and Jessica, I see it. So write it down, don't forget. And when we get back, we will continue this fierce vulnerability conversation. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for breaking with us. This is exciting news. We've got a lot of things going on with Fierce Vulnerability, the book, the movie. But before we get into all of that, let's bring back everyone on our panel. We have so many amazing people. Those people are Akasha Saunders, Kiara Fenderson, Melna Jones, Jessica Lightbourne, Reginald Jackson, and Lorraine Phillips. If you could all come back so we can continue our conversation. Just as we were leaving, Akasha leaned in and said, I just need to say this one last thing, but you go ahead and take your time and say what's on your mind, Akasha.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon. I love what Lorraine was speaking to earlier, just about like holding Black and brown people accountable for like doing the work. You know, like I'm for that. And the other thing I wanted to add to that though is I think as coaches, especially Black and brown coaches, I do hold that we have to work at two levels, you see, at least two levels. One is certainly at the individual level. Like what Lorraine said, like we're holding each other accountable, like you can do this, you know, and if you're not up for it, then maybe not. And I also think that we have to hold like systems and organizations accountable, because it's not just it's like the example I shared earlier was this brown person I was talking with who didn't believe that coaching was available to them. Like they genuinely did not know this, genuinely did not believe this. And I think that's a consequence of how the society they live in, the structures around access, around race, around gender, made it seem to them that they are undeserving of that. So I think we also have to be working at that level, you know, so be holding organizations accountable, be holding a history of inequity accountable as well as ourselves, really, and how we navigate that. So yes, like hold individuals accountable, but knowing that they also work and live in a context that's also impacting on them is really important for us as coaches to do. So like, you know, yes, you have to push, get beyond the mindset that's holding you back, and also bring some compassion to say, listen, you know, because of the history of us being in wherever we're living in, that also has an impact on us, you know, and on you. So both. So I don't know. It's like fierce love in a way, but also bringing support and challenge in these sort of engagements that you mentioned, Lorraine. So that's what I wanted to share and feel quite passionate about, as maybe you can tell.
I love the passion, Akasha. The thing that I was sitting on that adds on to the piece around being really fierce and calling people forth is I just want to let the audience know that every single one of us on this panel has gotten here because we have done the work we're challenging you to do. You cannot become a coach. You cannot become a credentialed coach. You cannot be in this work if you are not practicing being outside of your comfort zone. Like Jessica said, don't trust a coach who doesn't have a coach. Check out who's your coach. That's a question you should be asking, right? Where did you train? You know, it was not a fly by night over the weekend type of quick little course. Maybe it's really investing in doing the work yourself. And the reason why I want to share that is because as our people, it's really difficult for us to always be vulnerable. And one thing that I've recognized that I've had to work clients through is I don't have to look like you or have your experience to be able to hold space for you and to be able to coach you. Yet it does help, but I want you to know that I am a person of integrity, and most coaches are, where we have done the work, we're continuing to do the work. And the reason why we can call you forth is because we are doing it. I don't know about y'all, but it's not always easy. It's not always easy. You sit there sweating like you done missed this deadline 3 times in a row. And now I got to say, what's it going to take? What is the like end all be all thing that's going to motivate you? And sometimes, and I'll say it, I had a client one time, she got on the call with me and she first 15 minutes just cussed me out, laid everything out. Kiara, I'm just a number to you and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And it was heavy. Okay. It was easy to be triggered by it, but because I am trained and I've done the work and I've been here before, I held the space. I said, how was your day today? And she unloads that her boss said this and that and the job and this and that. And it had nothing to do with me, right? But if we weren't doing the work, I would have been triggered by that. And I would have jumped in like we normally do. And it wouldn't have been holding that space for her. And by the end of the session, she goes, I am so sorry I offloaded like that on you. And I said, I want you to feel safe to do that. I'm okay. I actually have a client who gets mad at me all the time. And I said, yes, we're getting ready to have a breakthrough. Because if you're not pissed off at me at the beginning, then at the end, you won't actually see what I'm trying to reflect to you. And so I share that with everyone in the audience so that you all know we are doing this work ourselves. And that's why we have the integrity to call you forth. We are not just being hard coaches on the sidelines, not knowing the sweat and tears that goes into transforming. We had to transform in order to do this work, and we have to continue to transform in order to do this work.
Wow. So many amazing things that you just said, Kiara. Wow. And gosh, I don't even know where to start, but I think one of the first things that I want to say that I think echoes what you said and what Akasha said is that the first step is to create a safe space for a community that hasn't felt safe for centuries, right? So you come with your armor. You come with your armor. You don't air your dirty laundry. You don't go to therapy. And this is not obviously therapy, but you may think that it is. You don't know me and what I've been through. And so there is that sense of immediate recognition. If you can at least, and actually Coach Reggie talked about it as well. If you can at least say, listen, I've been where you've been. I know what you're saying is real. Akasha talked about structures and I actually don't see them as separate, right? I see that we should be having these conversations. We haven't necessarily in our coaching training, right? It's only now that we have this collective, real collective consciousness around structures of inequality and oppression and hegemony. It's only now that the collective is willing to have these conversations, and not everybody has had that weaved into their coaching training. But if you have a person of color, if you have a Black coach, you don't have to have that training. You've lived that, so you automatically come to the table ready to have that conversation first, so that you can have that next conversation, which is looking forward and creating the impossible, right? Making the impossible possible. The next part, though, what I want to say is coaching can be fun as well. Coaching can be so much fun, right? I'm all about making things into a game, and what we've been trained to do is to coach on a gradient, right? Understanding what our clients need, being able to be tough when we need to be tough, but also being able to be gentle when we need to be gentle, and to allow for baby steps instead of being pushed into the deep end. Sometimes people need to be pushed into the deep end, and sometimes they don't. And it's our job to know our client and know and to make all of those things available to them, right? And to be able to flex and flow and to be with whatever is, right? As Kiara said, she was able to be with somebody yelling at her because she's ungettable. That's what a coach is. That's what a leader is. So I want to also have that disclaimer that coaching can be a hell of a lot of fun, and it doesn't have to be grind, and it doesn't have to be so uncomfortable. It can be fun as well. And I think I've touched most of my points, but I think Lorene just opened up a wonderful conversation around what it is to support our people.
As far as that last sentence, what it is to support our people, we are here because we have been supported by Coach Casey herself, Sophia Casey. So, and she is here to talk with us and to talk more and to engage in this conversation. Coach Casey, Sophia Casey, congratulations on everything and welcome.
Thank you. Look, I could stay a fly on the wall because this is so good. It's so good. I'm so grateful. So grateful. So I heard just the tail end of what Jessica just shared about being ungettable. We literally just talked about that. I told you it was coming from a coach training that I was leading, and that's an exercise, being ungettable. How can you be ungettable? Remind your saying about you. So thank you for saying that, Jessica.
So one of the things that we have obviously been talking about is coaching for ourselves, self-care. What does it do for us and to receive coaching, to get coaching? And the question I'd like you to discuss is this: beyond individual achievement, how can coaching help the Black community collectively?
Have everyone in the world, I'll subtract those younger than the age of 16, everyone in the world have access to coaching. Everyone. With an emphasis on my people who are members of the African diaspora, to where it's not special, it just is. It's expected. I think that's like one of the biggest things that we could focus on and that we could do that could have such a profound impact. And that's what we're all doing. All these coaches here, they're doing it every day, but to continue to do that.
Yeah, I love what you said there, Sophia, because we talked about self-care earlier, and that's a requirement. And I believe the growth and the transformation that happens through coaching should be a requirement. Almost like a curriculum or part of the curriculum in school, whatever school it happens to be. Because think about the things that and you know, everyone's mentioned, we do the work, right? Having someone raise their voice at you, or like we used to hear back in the day, call you out your name, and how you're able to actually not internalize that, but just reflect it. And okay, you know, how was your day? So, you know, not allowing yourself to be gotten in that way, because there's so much within you that you refuse to have that change who you are. Mike Tyson said something, I'm going to say this really quick. It was during an interview. And the gist of what he said in response to his guest was, when you allow someone to make you angry and to change what you've done, they become your master, because you're no longer who you are. I was like, make it a requirement.
Yeah, I want to build on both what Coach Casey and Coach Reggie mentioned, because I do have a point of maybe divergence, Coach Casey, which is that maybe last year I would have said, yeah, you know, anyone over 16, fine. But then when my 15-year-old says to me on his own accord, Dad, can you get a coach for me? I want to work on my social skills and build my own business. I'm like, of course, I never thought of this. Like, what if I had a coach when I was 15? Oh God. Wow, if I had a coach at 15. So, and tie that into, like, I hear a lot of like religious, you know, organizations and people say, listen, if you give me your kids up until they're like 17 or 7 rather, or 13, like, we got them. So I'm like, what if we introduce coaching to like all our kids before they turn 13? Like, what if their 13th birthday is a coaching session? You know, you can give them cakes and money and whatever else, but what if it's like all our kids, all our Black and brown kids, on their 13th birthday, as a rite of passage, they have a coaching session, like a coaching conversation just for them about their life and where they're going. Like, that world I can live with. And then I want to build on what Coach Reggie said, because as I said earlier, like, I think coaches are working at multiple levels, and at least two: the individual and the systemic or structural. So I think we also need to be getting into organizations and saying, listen, I think it's a good idea for you to make sure that all your people are coached, but especially your Black and brown leaders and staff are coached. Because listen, they're an important asset. They've been deprived for so, however you say this, like, equity is important.
Yes.
And many organizations and firms are very careful about giving attention to this thing. So they just want an opportunity to actually partner with coaches to actually help them help grow their Black and brown people and leaders. Okay. So I stand for that. I stand for that big time. And I see a lot of firms, a lot of big organizations doing this. Like, okay, how do we help our Black and brown leaders grow and develop? Some of them is just to look good. I get it, but I'm like, fine for whatever, but our people will benefit as much as everyone else have been benefit. It's not about just our people benefiting. I think it's about, like, let's look at like the inequity around developmental support that many Black and brown people have been deprived of. Like, let's begin to address that gap, that opportunity gap for a little. And people are ready to do that. Organizations are ready to do that. I think we have to hold them to account and partner with them around it.
I really appreciate you saying that, Akasha. So it's, yes, focusing on supporting these organizations around making sure that the Black and brown folks have access to coaching, and also the non-BIPOC folks have access to coaching, and having it be a part of all of the coaching work that we do. Cultural competency, being clear about the impact of someone's culture and environment on how they show up in those corporations. Right? All of it. So yes, thank you, Akasha.
And then, that creates the conversation of challenging not only the assumption, but the nature of the culture and how it's been allowed to, and I'll use a word as strong as destroy, to destroy individuals within that framework who feel marginalized or who don't believe they deserve. And I'll be honest with you, it's not of their making, right? It's a structure that was created that they were sometimes physically born into. So in some cases, they know no different. And for us, we can show them, tell them, have conversation with them about what is different, what can be different. And what if it was different for you? What would that look like? Have you ever even imagined what that would look like? Well, I'm here to tell you it's possible.
I'd love to go down that path a little bit and just talk about, for those of you who have children, what is it like to parent a child through the eye of coaching, through the lens of coaching?
It's
Shannon, once again,
game ever. It's the best game ever. Relate to it as a game. It's a game, and both parties win. Both parties win. It's a game. It's a game to see. Do you get a little miffed when your teenager says something to you? Are you willing to ask some powerful, open-ended questions when they are all up in your face? Do you support them around having their own opinions and their own beliefs? There is an opportunity to play the coaching game every single day. I don't care how old your child is, even those adult children. Yeah, great play.
And I'll say, Sophia, you're right. My children are adults. They're in their 40s. And so when my son came to me and said, I can't deal with this job anymore, Mom. I don't know what to do. Could you coach me? And we did. And he successfully moved forward. There were some things that became clear for him, some others that he, as we were talking about earlier, being that mirror and reflecting back, him seeing himself and realizing that I have a part in this also, but I can make some changes. It was transforming for him on the one hand, but it was also for me, because this is my child who I want the best for. If I could, I'd just give it to you. You wouldn't even have to go out and transform and work for it. Let me just give it to you. But I couldn't do that. To be able to coach him through that thing was priceless. Priceless.
Yeah, I believe in not just coaching, but I believe not as just as a profession, but as a way of being. And I have 3 sons that are 2 Gen Zs and a millennial. And I will tell you, coaching makes parenting much easier. I will tell you, it's lighter. It takes a lot of responsibility off your shoulder and it places it right back onto them. It empowers them. So I wish I had these skill sets a few years back. But one of the things I am doing is not just talking about it and or incorporating in a way that I parent them, but one of the things that I've done for my oldest one was gifted him coaching. So I paid for him to get a coach, and it's been phenomenal. Because as you know, Reggie, to your point about, just being really to go there and to call them on it, as sometimes as parents, it's really hard to do that. And I wanted my son to go there, and I'm not the person to go there with. And for him to find that safe space where he can go there with someone and really push, challenge, get clarity, and figure out at 26, what an amazing gift to have as he is continuing to grow, mature, and to self-discover. But one of the things also that I wanted to mention was that introducing coaching to younger kids. So I have a lot of young teenagers that hang around me. They come to my house and it's a lot of fun. And so they think we're just having a conversation, but I'm not actually just having a conversation. I'm actually coaching them. So on Saturday, we had some friends over and they have a 14-year-old daughter. And every time her parents get invited, she says, "Can I come? Can I come? Can I come?" And they're like, why does she always want to go to the Phillips's house? Well, it turns out that apparently she tells me on her way, she said, "I always love coming to your house because whenever I leave, I have a set of actions that I have to take. And I'm so inspired. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know what my next step is going to be, etc., etc." And I remember saying, little does she know that I've been coaching her the whole time. So, it's us just bringing it into our daily lives, bringing it into all facets of our lives, all the informal spaces, all those, like I said earlier, going on a walk with a friend and actually coaching her, and she doesn't realize that I am coaching her. We're constantly looking for opportunities to give the gift of coaching to our community in all different ways, in ways that seem so natural, but yet so powerful.
Yeah, Sophia, I know you can relate to this because we've worked together before. I tell all my coach trainees, be coach everywhere. Make it such a part of you that it's just you. So in the way you think, the questions you ask, the perspective you have on life, and talking about children. So both of my children are adults. And I spend more time with my son, A, because he's closer, B, because we work out together a lot. And we have what I call transformational conversations. He'll be 30 in February. And we don't get mad, we don't have arguments, but we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And one of the things I know he has seen in me, in my transformation, is that we can have opposing views and I can keep the same tone of voice and still be passionate, question his assumption, and when he questions mine, to not look at him like, well, who do you think you are? No, it's like, you know what, son? You're right. You are absolutely right. And I love you for pointing that out. So it creates a space. And look, you and Josh, right? Watching him grow up and become a young man. The gift we give our children through coaching is priceless, right? And to see how it changes their life, you best believe it changes ours.
Absolutely. And especially with our having Black sons in this world, on this planet. What a gift it is to give them another language. It's another language to speak to others, but also another language to speak to themselves. I feel it's a huge, huge gift.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that. And speaking of a gift, Lorraine, I so resonate with your approach with your kids as well. And this may be a bit harsh, I don't know. So you all can tell me if it is. But I don't pay for my son's coaching. Like I helped him find a coach, but I let him pay for that himself. Because here's the thing, is to talk about gift of coaching. Here's one of the gifts that I think that coaching provides, even in our parenting, is around ownership. And I love what you said, Coach Reggie and Sophia just now. Like for me, I don't have to necessarily coach my son. You know, although to Reggie's point, like I suppose I'm being coached all the time, but I don't have to really coach him. I think the thing that comes across is that, hey, young man, you can own your life. You can create your life. So that I think enables us to be incredible parents to these kids and to our Black sons and daughters. It's like you can create your own life. And so you want a coach? Pay for it. I'll help you find a coach and I can help you pay for some of it. But you're gonna pay for it. You say you're a businessman, you're making some money, pay for it. And so then that's teaching them, it's like Dad, I realize I can't really buy this thing anymore that I was gonna buy because now I have to pay for Rebecca's session. I'm like, that's life, buddy. Welcome to life.
Oh my gosh, Akasha, I love it. I love this conversation that we're having because what we're talking about is shifting some generational patterns. And, you know, I'm a mom of a 2-year-old, okay? I don't know what this life is like yet. Y'all pray for me and give me all the tips. But what I do know is when I became a coach, one of the things my mother said to me as I was leaning into my vulnerability, practicing boundaries, which I've never heard of in my whole life until coaching, my mother said to me, ever since you became a coach, you've been sensitive. And it triggered me so much, right? Because we're supposed to have this tough skin. We're supposed to not air our business. We're not supposed to be vulnerable. How dare I share with her, Mom, when you said that, that made me feel this way. And it was a very rocky road. And to this day, it's still, you know, there's still some things there where we're working through it. But she had to come around to this new way of being. And she has come around tremendously to the new way of being. But what I'm hearing us all talk about is the ripple effect. So when we go all the way back to accessibility, when we go all the way back to saying we need to hold these organizations accountable and having access to a coach, I say this to the audience, I say this to us, I say it to everyone. If you ever had the privilege to be in the presence of a coach, whether it's going to the Phillips home and you're 14 and you had some coaching questions at you, or you actually had a coaching session, you have coaching skills now. And so it's our responsibility, not just as coaches, but of people who have experienced any type of coaching, to create that ripple effect, to change the narrative, to get curious, to have different questions, to start exposing our community to space and vulnerability and integrity and just deeper relationships. It's just the power of a coaching skill. So even if you don't want to be a coach, go take a quick little coaching course on LinkedIn or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, do something so that you are having that ripple effect, so that you are the cause. And yeah, let me take that back real quick. Don't take a quick little coaching. You're not going to be really a coach. Because I did, look, Sophia, earlier I did say you need to make sure it's an official coaching program. All I'm saying is,
I was about to text you.
I know. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, just take those skills and let it be a ripple effect. Mic drop, let me go on mute.
Yes, Kiara, I love everything that you just said. What stood out to me the most is how family can trigger you, and talk about being ungettable. Family can get you. And that is what I have found. My family has been the best coach training program that I could get. I'm going to become a master coach because of my 18-year-old daughter. She has
and it's free.
Granted me, and it's free. It's free. I mean, this last year alone, I really think I should be qualified as a master coach now, because talk about learning how to be ungettable with an adolescent young woman whose hormones are doing funny things and who knows all of my triggers. Mm-hmm. What I have learned, though, this has this has broken some generational curses or generational trauma or generational patterns, because finally I am able to hold space, shut my mouth, and just love my child, And it's interesting. And so that, to me, this is fierce vulnerability, because yes, I'm a coach who sometimes is gettable, but more and more I understand that that's not how transformation happens. Transformation doesn't happen by telling people what to do or judging them or being harsh with them or bringing the solution. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And Lord knows your daughter. I don't know if you have a daughter, Kiara, but our daughters, there's something about mother-daughter relationships, and our daughters are our mirrors, because the things that we can't stand in our daughters or mothers are the things about ourselves that we can't be with yet. So it's a great mirror. And I'm happy to say that I can be with my daughter, which means I am loving myself more and more. And this is the work that keeps on giving. It really is.
You all are talking about transforming generations and whatnot. I want to ask each of you for some specifics. For those people who are watching, what are some results that you've helped clients achieve?
Words are powerful. Words are incredibly powerful. And Kiara talked about a word game. I work with my clients, and most of them are in the corporate space. The words we use are so powerful, yet we're not aware of the words we use. So most of them come to me because they are emerging leaders and they want to improve in their leadership. And the thing that we work on the most is, how are you addressing the people you are responsible for? What is your language like? What words are you using? Are you hearing the words you're using? And what results do you want to get from your team? Trust and believe they're going to give you what you give them. So the words you use are so incredibly powerful that once you begin to understand what they mean, how they land, right? How people receive them, you can be more mindful of the language you use. It doesn't mean that you can't be direct. It doesn't mean that you can't offer direction, but it means you do it in a way that you create partnership. You allow people to feel empowered so they are willing to do the work, because they know when you come to them, they're not going to be belittled, berated, felt less than. They're going to be lifted up because you believe in them. One of the things that I used to tell my Marines all the time is, I'll never ask you to do anything that I haven't done, cannot do, or would not do myself. And so when I come to you, you should know that I have all the faith and trust in your capabilities, that you have the training you need, and that I trust you to do this. Right? I trust you to do this. So the results have been changing their words and the way they communicate, whether it's verbal or written, so they can reach people and be far more effective.
Reggie, I love that. So I work with small business owners and organizations, but primarily I work with women entrepreneurs. And this pandemic threw them for a loop. I told y'all I had a pandemic baby, so I was literally on maternity leave, and they were like, I need you to come out of maternity leave, because what we gonna do? And it was so incredible to see the power of our coaching work shift them into not only being resilient, but having the courage to make the pivots that they had wanted to make for years. I had a client who pivoted out of the marketing industry, where she was just taking any client she wanted to take, into a luxury boutique travel industry where she's making so much more money now. She always wanted to step into that. And you would think that during a pandemic, it's scarcity, we don't know what's going to happen. But the power of coaching creates this space that allows you to have the resiliency and the courage to know that I can create whatever I want to create. I had a client who was leaving corporate and stepping into her own business. And she went to Bali and came back and said, I wish I could go to Bali all the time. And I said, well, what's holding you here? You're no longer in that corporate structure. You need a laptop and some internet. And she enrolled in the remote year program, where she traveled the world for a whole year and grew her business. And so It's so interesting because I once had a coach that said he coached Mary Kay consultants, and he said, if I really put on the wall what we do as coaches, I would never get clients. So I say I help you get the pink Cadillac. I thought it was really interesting because you're Mary Kay, you get the pink Cadillac. I help you get the pink Cadillac. He said, but if I was telling the truth, I work on your daddy issues, your money issues, your scarcity, right? Right. So as a business coach, what people come to me and they want to improve their revenue, they want to improve their leadership in their businesses, they want to be able to get some clarity so that they know what their strategic plan is. But behind the scenes, you're building resiliency, courage, clarity, very importantly, and shifting your perspective on what is possible. So I think coaching is just, there's so many realms that you can go into in terms of results.
Yeah, I want to build on what Kara is saying here. You know, there's a client I was working with, I think maybe a year and a half ago, and she was unemployed, and I still charged her. She still paid something, and things got really bad, and she wanted to pause coaching for a little, which I got. And 3 weeks ago, she reached out. And she sent me a 2-page email, essentially saying to me, the work we did together was really powerful. She wanted me to know that she just finished a interview with this big firm, and she's about to sign a contract for over $200,000. And she is wondering if we can continue working together, and she can pay me my full rate now. I'm like, I'm not gonna charge you no full rate. Listen, part of the thing is, like Reggie, for some reason I end up working quite a bit with Black women, and I have a personal commitment to supporting Black women. And so the thing that I look for isn't like this increase in revenues and a new job and so on. It's something that actually Jessica spoke of very early in the conversation. Like, the thing that I pay attention to when I'm working with clients, especially Black women, is how they are holding their bodies. So when I got on a quick call with this client, and before she used to be like this in her seat. And when I was talking with her, she was like this. I don't do like body coaching, but I'm like, she's found something in herself. So the thing that I do is, like, when I see, like, each one of us on this call right now, I wish I could even see the audience. Like, each one of us, I'm not guessing that there is something divine in you. Like, I know it. It's it's shining so bright, and I'm like, how can I help everyone see that? That to me is like coaching. It's like, look inside, look inside. And then each time they see a little of what's inside, they perk up a little. And next thing you know, they're making $200,000 a year. So that's how I see this thing.
That's awesome. Much like Coach Reggie, I work with a lot of emerging leaders and those who are in transition, going from that middle level up to the executive level of the corporate world. But as Kiera said, also, I might be coaching you around your development of your skills that you have gaps with. But really, what it comes down to is we're talking about everything under the table and anything else, because most of those folks don't have the confidence they need to move forward. And so for the most part, we start right there. What happened? I mean, we don't do therapy, but do you understand? Do you have an inkling of what may have played a part or a role in this, and why this narrative is playing over and over in your head that says you're not enough to be at the table with the other executives who are at the table? And so I like to think that somewhere along the line, transformation does happen. And it is as a result of that mirroring that someone spoke of earlier, that they are seeing themselves again and again, not the way you thought you looked, but the way you are. You really are. You have that expertise. You've got that knowledge. You've got the ability. You're capable. Why can't you sit at the table? Why do you need to be at the back of the room? Pull out the chair and sit with the big boys. You earned it. So I think for me, it's that transformation. And I love seeing it happen. Each time it happens, it's amazing to me. But we start at the beginning with, my kids aren't listening to me. Why would my team listen to me? I can't get that boy to do his homework for anything. And it's all about their real lives, their personal lives, because all of that, and I like to tell people too, it's your whole self. You don't get to, although I know we've, as Black people, said it for years and years, I go to work, I leave her at home, and I show up as this other person. And I can speak the speak and talk the talk and walk the walk. But when I go home, girl, did you hear? But it really isn't that way. Whoever we are, we're wholly that person, whether at home or at work. And so be you authentically. And whatever that looks like and whatever that means, be you.
So Melna, so fierce vulnerability, right? That's what we're here talking about. And when you approach your life with that fierce vulnerability, you are empowered to be you everywhere all the time. Because otherwise, you're schizophrenic. Who else knows? Because you're afraid to be yourself in certain places and certain spaces. Be you, do you 24/7. And for the people that think you're too much, they're not your people. And it's just that simple.
Also, I think it's so much good stuff. I wish I was on the other side of the screen kind of listening in, but I have to participate here. But I also think that as we look at, I think for the first time, there's like 5 generations in the workplace right now, 5 generations. And so there's a lot of, we talk about diversity and all the different things, but there's a lot of diversity generationally, and there's a lot of angst that goes along with that. And the last couple of years working in this remote environment, we have people coming into the workforce that entered in remotely. They haven't even put on a work outfit yet, and they've been working. And so it's going to be interesting to see the challenges coming up ahead when everyone starts to connect more in a hybrid and what that's going to look like. But I work a lot with individuals and teams in the corporate environment. And, they all come with goals that Melna was right. I'd like to work on, assertiveness. And 99.9% of the time, whatever goal they come to work on, we know that the deeper issue is our job is to go behind what that is. And I wish I could tell you I get used to these moments, but I never ever do get used to these moments. When they happen, they like literally I just get stopped. It's like, oh my goodness, it's happening. I coached a client recently. He's in his mid-40s, successful by all accounts, came to me, didn't know what coaching was, started working with me. And on one of our sessions, he said to me, he just stopped and it was just dead silence. You could drop a pin. And he just looked at me right through the screen and he said, "Where were you 15 years ago?" I knew exactly what he meant. He said, "I built my career going down the wrong path." He said, "But I have 10 years to get to the C-suite." And it's in moments like those that just really affirm that, being smart is not good enough. You need support. You really need support. And that is what we do when we are open to allow a space for our clients to be vulnerable enough, to be fiercely vulnerable enough to Sophia, to risk and to become emotionally open in order for the growth to take place so that they can really become their whole self. Find those hidden parts of themselves, those self-limiting beliefs, those thought mindsets that they had that was limiting them, that for all intents and purpose, they didn't know existed. And we work with them to uncover that and release them to be truly, truly successful. Yeah.
It's
As we
interesting.
are, and don't lose your train of thought, but fold this into it. As we are starting to wind down our conversation, I would love for each of you just to give a quick description of your specialty area. Akasha, you randomly said, I'm not a body coach. And I think a couple of people have said, I'm not a blank coach. I'm not a blank. And I think a lot of people are watching like, oh, there are different types of coaches. I thought coaching was a blanket statement. So as you are answering questions, just remind people of your expertise and your specialty areas.
Perfect. That's what I was going to say is I'm a leadership and lifestyle coach. So I work with a lot of leaders and emerging leaders on leadership skills and competencies, and those who want to rise in an organization, but also those who have hit a ceiling in the organization and want to pivot and, know that they need to make a move out of the organization in order to make the money that they want or have the influence that they want. And at the same time, I have coaching clients who want to work on vastly different areas around their finances, around their sex life, around their relationships, around, so I say I'm a leadership and lifestyle coach, but, I really truly believe in, and I suspect that most of the coaches here look at the whole person when they're coaching. So like Lorene says, they say they're coming in for assertiveness training, but, it might be a relationship. It might be their well-being. Who knows? But everything connects. And so I'm open to people of all walks of life, of all economic backgrounds, because at the end of the day, I know that I can support them in breaking through wherever they want. But, my bread and butter has been through leadership coaching.
And I have two demographics. I coach C-suite executives, and the pattern that I hear in this conversation is that it doesn't matter what the title is. It doesn't matter. They all are looking for transformation. They're looking to be heard. Just to be heard, and to actually get reconnected to their dreams. I experience that a lot in our coaching sessions. The other demographic that I work with that I'm so in love with is I coach coaches. And I love that work. I love that work because as coaches, we pour out so much. We pour out and pour out. And I don't mean pour out by telling people what to do, because I'm sure you all heard that we don't do that, right? But we pour out energetically all the time, every session, even in between sessions as we're preparing for sessions. And so I just love working with coaches so much so that they can actually, value themselves and pour back into themselves. And so with that, I'm gonna give a little teaser that I have some extraordinary news coming down the pike. So I want you to stay connected with me, stalk me, because I really believe that this news that I'm coming down the pike with is actually going to have, I think it was Kiara said, is going to have a ripple effect on this planet. And the reason that I even believe I could do it, that we believe we could do it, is because of the power of coaching. Just declare something. You declare something, you say it's going to be so, put the action in place to get it so. And the last thing I want to add is I'm looking forward to the day where Black people can relate to coaching like they relate to any support, that it's abundant and it's available and they deserve it. And they're a stand and they're relentless to actually have it. Like it's part of our DNA. It's who we are. Right?
I so love that, my friend. When you said that last piece, it was like coaching like air, but not really. It's like coaching like soul food. Like you don't have to go to like the South to get it. It's like just like soul food. It's like get it all the time. and it's very good. It's yummy, most delicious food you'll ever have. Um, so this the well, that's what I said about. I sort of alluded to this earlier about the type of coaching that I do. It is developmental, so I really just look at how people are making sense of themselves and of the world and of others, and how that changes over time. But essentially, I alluded to, I used the word divine earlier. I really do believe there's a giant self in all of us, big self, and we can feel that self. Sometimes we can taste it, we can imagine it, shows up in our dreams and so on. But I think when we're really in that self, like anything is possible. In fact, everything is possible. And so my coaching purpose is really just to help us find that self, just to help us find and be that giant self, whomever comes. I work with people who develop drugs, who spend 10 years making pharmaceutical stuff in like big pharma, and I work with people who do equity work in Brazil, and I work with, anybody really. So you want to find that giant self and be that, that's usually the type of people and conversations that I'm in.
So the type of coaching I do, excuse me, is very similar to the type of person I am. And so my clients are up to big things. They are not afraid to reach out and grab it. And so even though leadership is the draw for them, I believe we are leaders at work, at home, and in our community. So wherever we are there. And the ripple effect that we've been talking about is exactly what happens in the transformation, because imagine as you see yourself in a better place, as a better person, everyone you touch gets that better. And a word that we've not used tonight is normal. And I believe it's normal for us to want more than what we have. I believe it's normal for us to want to be our best selves. But somehow that got lost in all of what the world piles on us. And coaching allows us to free ourselves from those chains that have binded us for who knows how long, and to see what's possible, and to believe that we can do it just because we say we can. And so, Sophia, you talked about declare, right? So we know declare and fulfill. And you have to be committed. So my clients are committed. And to me, if you have to recommit yourself, you weren't committed in the first place. Commitment is jumping out of that airplane, right? Commitment is doing the thing that you cannot reverse. And so when you say you want a coach, I call myself a vampire coach, because once you invite me across the threshold, you're stuck with me. You are stuck with me. And so I will make sure, if you want to be the best you possible, come find me. That's why I rebranded my firm years ago to Total Brilliance Coaching. There's a light that shines in each one of us. And if it has ever gone dim, you better trust and believe it's still in there, right? And the right coach will allow you to dust all of that off so you shine bright.
He's telling the truth too. Once you work with him, you're stuck with him. He means it. And it's a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing.
So my style of coaching, I told you, was transformational, but I work with, as I said, those folks who are brand new. They were individual contributors, and now they've been selected, interviewed, and given the corner office, so to speak. And that was me early in my career. I always knew I was going to be somebody's leader. And I even bought the wardrobe before I even got the job. I was still going to school and I had bought all of my suits. But when I got into the position, and I only had a team of 6 people, and they were great, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And the things I didn't know, I couldn't pay somebody to teach me. So even though I'd done all this training, leadership training in school and in college, going around and asking my executive leaders, could you mentor me? Could you tell me how? No, I'm too busy. Oh, I'm on travel that week. I'm going to be on travel from now to forever. I can't help you. And so I found that I was left out in the cold by myself. And I was working in an organization where there wasn't anyone else that looked like me that was in the position I was in. So I was on my own. And I thought, I will never do this to someone else. Come on, let me take your hand and I'll help you. And that's where coaching first initially began to grow as a seed in me. And I do it now. I do it for free if I had to, and I have at times. But I work with those folks who are standing in that position and they don't know what they don't know. They have a lack of confidence. They are struggling with the imposter syndrome and so many other things. And it just, for me to be able to take the journey with them is everything, everything. And as Sophia said, that's one piece. And the other side now, I find that my practice is growing and a lot of males are now turning to me. I have more male clients than I do female at this point. And it was surprising to me to find that they struggle with some of the same things. And so I'm enjoying that as well. And let me just say, Coach Sophia is my coach. She's wonderful. And every coach ought to have a coach like Coach Sophia, because we need it too. And as someone said earlier, if you're a coach and you don't have a coach, question mark.
Friends and family, we are wrapping up, and I want to be sure to hear from everyone. I want to give you some space to let people know how they know they need coaching. What is some advice you would give them, to our viewers? What are some questions that they should be asking themselves so that they travel down a path to getting coaching from any of you?
Well, the first thing I would say is they don't need coaching. That coaching is an option. It's a choice, a gift even. And I'm so grateful for this work and the way that we are trained to do this work, that we relate to every person as a leader of their life that doesn't need us. You know, I love saying, can my clients actually get the results by themselves? Yes, they can, but they don't have to. That's it. Yes, they can do it, but they don't have to. So the first thing I would say to them is, imagine that you don't need it, and it's something that's a gift to you. It's something that you deserve, that you don't have to work hard for and earn. It just is. It's a part of, what did Coach Reggie say? It's your normal.
Beautiful.
No one wants to follow that, Sophia. Jessica. Yeah.
Well, I would say, I would ask another question, which is, who could benefit from a coach? And my answer to that is, are you breathing? Because if you're breathing, you can benefit from a coach.
And I like to ask people, okay, maybe you don't need a coach, but what is it that's waking you up at 3 a.m. or keeping you awake all night long? What's that thing?
I work a lot also on relationships, and the most important relationship is the relationship, and I'm talking earthly relationships, the relationship you have with yourself. You know, how happy are you with yourself?
Yeah.
Right? The person you can't get away from. How happy are you with that person? And if you're not as happy as you think you can possibly be, try working with a coach and then see what happens to all of your relationships.
Reggie, I love that so much, because I called our firm the Ambition Studio because my mission is to shift your relationship with your ambition. You know, sometimes we think that we're ambitious and we're driving hard and we don't need a coach to help us because we already got it going on. We already know how to achieve our results. But in fact, you are achieving from a place that is not authentically aligned to you. So I support leaders, business leaders, entrepreneurs in shifting their relationship with their ambition so that they're utilizing and optimizing their intuition. And that's something that hasn't come up. And I know we're at the end of time, but I really do want to say that Leo Akasha mentioned this as well. The work we are doing is divine, and we are here to support the divine in you that you may not be connected to. So it doesn't have to be a physical goal. Consider that we're giving you an access point to your being that you may not have known was there.
Amen and amen. Last thing I want to add is, what would I tell a person? So instead of telling other people, what I'm telling myself, what I'm asking myself is, are my people where they want to be, how they want to be, and who they want to be? And if the answer when I wake up every day is still no, I have work to do. I go to work. I go to work.
And the work works.
Hey.
Friends and family, this has been an amazing conversation, a completely amazing conversation. I'm so glad that I have been a part of it. This has been the Fierce Vulnerability Summit, a conversation about and a celebration of colored girls' truths, trials, and triumphs. And tonight we had the privilege of talking about fiercely vulnerable Black life coaching and to fiercely vulnerable Black life coaches. So thank you so much. I want to say thank you to everyone here, to Lorraine, to Coach Reggie, to Akasha, Jessica, Kira, and Melna, and of course, Sophia Casey. Thank you very much for bringing us together. Listen, if you looked away for a moment and missed that there are movies coming out based on this book, don't look away. Don't look away anymore. Look for Sophia Casey. All of her information has been scrolling under us. There's lots of scrolling things. If you're looking for a coach, you've got some right here, and you have found that as well, and all of their information and contact information. One more time, thank you very much to all of you on the panel and to each of you who have joined us and who are watching. Be sure, this has been inspiring and so grounding to witness and be a part of this discussion. Thank you, Sophia, for bringing awareness to how we can invest in ourselves through coaching. Friends, family, thank you for joining us and supporting this book, Fierce Vulnerability, and our community. Good night.
Good night.